we're going to go ahead and get started on today's topic, which is getting ahead with Type Ahead. So today we're talking about Type Ahead, which will basically allow you to save a ton of time, because when you're looking at a list of items, especially a really long list, instead of having to read through each item to find what you need, typing ahead will allow you to type just one or two characters, maybe more if you want to get more fine-tuned, to get the information or get to the item you need in just a second. Okay, so they can save a ton of time on a regular basis once you get in the habit of using them and knowing where they are. Okay, Type Ahead's especially helpful if you're a keyboard kind of person, like to work quickly without going back and forth to your mouse. But it's just helpful in general also to know that they're there, whether you end up using your mouse to go select it or not. We'll go over all of that. Ready? Okay, so let's talk about what Type Ahead is. And I'm going to illustrate by heading over to a transaction and messing with some docs here, because doc names is a great place to illustrate how Type Ahead works. Whenever I'm going to add a doc to a transaction or change its name on a transaction, so whether I'm assigning it, changing its name right here, which I'm about to do, or uploading it to the doc, the system will automatically highlight that doc name to help facilitate naming it for me. So let me go ahead and edit this doc name. And you'll see by default, it automatically highlights that. That way, I'm naturally going to start typing, right? Because I need to name my doc unless that's the actual name there, which typically it's not the doc name, the file name that I've used to upload it. So I'll usually need to change that. But notice the moment I start typing, it's going to whittle down my selection down below to my matching items. So if I start typing, let's say MO, because it's a mold disclosure or what have you, I've typed ahead to fine tune that selection that's suggested. Okay. And you see by just typing 2 characters here, I've whittled down my selection very likely to the one that I'm looking for. But if not, at least just a few that I can choose from. So different benefits, obviously, depending on what field you're typing ahead on. So in this doc name case, it's really helpful because it helps give that consistency with the doc naming, right? My doc names aren't all over the place. It makes it easy, super easy for me to name my doc. Again, just 2 characters I type, select it, and I've got my doc named. Okay, so that's what Type Ahead is typing those couple characters or a few characters, however much you want to fine tune your selection to get the information you need. Okay, or let's say I know that it's a seller's disclosure, so I can just start typing. Oops, if I could spell properly, SE, right? And I get all my seller doc names that start with seller at the beginning. Or let's say I want to fine tune it based on something more specific within the doc name. Like let's say I know it's a coastal area property type of addendum or something. I could just start typing coastal, right? And I get my addendums for coastal. So it doesn't need to be at the beginning of the doc name. If I can think of some phrase that's unique that will help me whittle it down even further, I can do that as well, like coastal. Alrighty. Okay, so that is Type Ahead, and that's what we're going over today. Basically, all the areas in Pipeline where you can do that. A lot of these areas are like this one where I have to type, right? It's prompting me to type something. So you probably are going to know about those areas already because you naturally type into them and get the suggestions down below. But there are areas, actually most of the areas, that you're probably not aware of because they don't prompt you to type, but will be huge time savers once you realize that they're there. Okay, super, super convenient. All right, so let's first finish out the areas where you probably do know about them. Doc names obviously is one. The next one is task name setup under admin settings. When you go to a checklist and let's head over into one. Let's say you're adding tasks. Let me get myself some more space here. Whenever you're adding tasks to your checklist template, the system knows that a lot of times you want to match your doc names to your task name. And of course, when you do that, you get that benefit of doc task name matching when you're on the transaction and clicking on a doc name or hovering over a task, the opposite will highlight for you. In other words, if you're hovering over a task, the matching doc name will highlight. We've gone over that a ton of times, so I'm not going to go over that. But anyway, since we know that that is such a huge benefit, if I start typing, let's say mold disclosure, right? Because I want a task to help track making sure the mold disclosure is on the transaction, it'll give me that list of standard doc names down below. So typing ahead in your tasks will show you different doc names. Okay, do that sellers spelled it wrong 2 times in a row, right? Seller's disclosure or what have you. Okay. Ready? That's the next area. Next is contacts. Let's head back over to a transaction. And let's say I'm adding a contact. Obviously, I can, you can see it here because I'm typing in. I can type in my role. This is typically a pretty short list of roles, depending on how many you've got in your account. So it's not terribly too cumbersome to wield, but I could still whittle that down. I want to find all my escrow assistants or escrow officers, right? So I can select that by using type ahead. And once I've done that, probably more opportunity exists here to whittle down your selections of the matching people within that particular role. So if I wanted to say, find all the people from ABC Escrow, it's an easy one right here, right? It whittles down my selection there. But more likely, I'm looking for a person. So I can type Jamie, right? Or even maybe I know her email address, Jamie, right? Or even maybe I want everyone in the 405 or 555 area code, what have you, whatever. Okay. So I've got all of those filtering abilities across the board for all of those fields to help me fine tune what I'm looking for instead of having to scroll. Next is, or last for the ones that you know about, is merging docs. And just like the doc names, basically, once I type a addendum, actually, type a few characters, then it suggests those matching docs. So again, I'm getting that consistency with my doc naming and making it easy for me to select. Ready? Okay, on to the even more fun stuff, areas that you might not know about. The first, still in this area here, is message templates, right? When I'm sending out a message, I may have a crap load of messages that I've got here, and going to find them each time would, if I do have that really long list, would probably be a bit of a pain, right? But I can actually type ahead here. Even though there's no field that I can type in, this is a drop down and selectable list only, I actually can type. So let me come back out and start from the beginning. Let's say I'm looking for the key dates template. I can just type KEY. You can see that KEY is underlined because that's what I type, right? If I added more key dates, AP, right? It underlines what I've actually typed. So super fast to be able to come back here to be able to whittle down your selection again, especially if you've got a really long list of templates and you're sending messages all the time. So it's super helpful. Also, you could use this, since you can do type ahead here, you can use this to support categorization, right? Let's say I had several message templates that were specific to a particular location, right? And this transaction is a part of obviously a particular location. Let's say it's Brian's team. Actually, let's pretend it is SWR, right? That's what my example illustrates. Let's say I had a location called Southwest Realty. That's SWR. That's what that stands for. And I wanted to categorize my templates by that. I can preface them or prefix them all with SWR. That way, if someone's looking for an SWR template, they can come here, type SWR, and only see those templates that match. And that can be sort of your workflow, is training users that their templates are organized in that fashion so they can type ahead to get to them. And you can sort of extrapolate and use that from an application perspective to categorize them in other ways, maybe which side of the transaction they're on or what have you, right? All righty, cool deal. Okay, so next is, I'm sort of going to clump the concept of these together. Next is doc permission categories. So whenever just like a moment ago when I was renaming that doc name, I typed ahead to get there. I could also type ahead to advance in my list. So here, let's say I wanted this to be in the sale category. I didn't do type ahead. Sorry, let me cancel and start over. I wanted this to be in the the sale category. I could just type S or SA, whatever, right? To whittle down that selection. And I said I'm going to group these into sort of a broad category of the types of type ahead that you can do, because there are lots of fields where you can do this, and I'm going to show you where they are in a second. But so again, let me cancel and start over again. If I want to change this to the sale category, I could just type S. But notice this list is always going to be this long. There are no other items in this. So there might not be as much of a need to type ahead on such a short list, you might think, right? Not necessarily so. Like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people are keyboard kind of people. So let's say I didn't want to use my mouse so much. Let me cancel and start over so you can see sort of in action how it works. I edit doc, I click here and I want to say sale, I can just hit enter, right? And I'm done. Okay, right? And then I'm done, right? I've used my keyboard to enter that instead of selecting sale and then going over and hitting enter, etc. So it just makes it faster. And I'll do that one more time. Edit doc. I want that to be the sale doc and I enter and I'm done. Okay, just using my keyboard that quickly by typing S and then enter. Okay, so that just really shows, and I'll show that flow in a couple of other scenarios, how you can use your keyboard instead to work a lot more quickly. For some people, that's a no, I'm not going to do that. But for some people, that's an attraction. I like doing that because I like to just zoom through my keyboard. And some people be like, no, I want to be more definitive and see what I'm clicking. Alrighty, so let me head over to those few other places where it's more of a drop down like that. And that is on all of your page searches. So let me head over to transactions. All of these drop downs here, again, you're not inclined to type into them, so you might not know about them, but all of these have type ahead. So if I want my status to be accepted, I just type ACC, hit enter, right? And I've got that, or my label to be condo, right? Or in that case, I did CO and 2 came up. Obviously, I could have selected one or the other. I could have arrowed down. It's not type ahead, but since we're here, I could have arrowed down to select that. I could have arrowed down in general even before I started that. I'm getting off topic because that's not type ahead, but we're right here, so I can't not show you, right? So I can arrow down until I get to the one that I want, hit enter, and something like that. Okay, but again, all of these have type ahead. And some are short, not as much of a big deal for finding it, but easy if you want to just use your keyboard and you're kind of breezing through that and you're running some sort of search. Okay, that's on all of your areas that have the search or filter, right? So filter, right? Admins, etc. Use all these for type ahead. Same for unassigned. Same for unreviewed. Got a few fields there. And on unreviewed, same deal. Fields where I can do type ahead. There are a few on tasks as well. Visibility, listing agents, etc. Status, same deal. Location. Alrighty. Same for reference page. If I'm adding a doc here, pull up a doc. If I'm giving it a category, I've got if you're using your reference page as a library, which a lot of people do, and you've got a long list of categories here, you can just type to whittle down that selection, make it easy for you. Okay. And then also for adding a transaction. Obviously, some information you need to type into here, street, my MLS number, etc. But once I get down to the statuses, and I'll sort of do this using my keyboard, so you can see how if I wanted to whip through it, let's say my status was accepted. I wouldn't do that at the beginning, but you get the point. My label is condo, enter, and then I get into my other information. So if you're entering transactions a lot, that might be helpful because you can just use your keyboard to select and then tab on through. But again, most things that have drop downs with options here, you can type ahead on. So keep in mind those search areas, etc. But in general, whenever you see a drop down, give it a try. You can probably do type ahead on it. Ready? There's some more here. And of course, type ahead for the agents down here. Okay. All right, last 2 items, kind of cheating because they're not really type ahead, but you do type and they get you ahead. And that is when I'm on a transaction, excuse me. Let's say I've got a doc, hopefully a long doc here, listing agreement should do me, right? Go to one that's got my new previews here. Okay, right. When I'm on a doc and I'm previewing it, I could use my arrows on my keyboard. Obviously I can click to preview and advance through the doc. I can also use my arrows on my keyboard, right? So if I click over my keyboard to the right or left, I can arrow over. I can type the page number I want to go to. So if I type 7, it'll jump to page 7. I'm on a double-digit doc or doc with double-digit pages, like 30 pages. I can type 24 to get to, and then 4 to get to page 24, etc. So anyway, typing to get ahead there. And then last is, again, cheating, but on the help site search bar. This is really just a real-time search. But if I wanted to type what I'm looking for in this box, it'll whittle down my selection down to here, which I just have to mention because it's huge and it helps you so much. When you've got a question, you can go right to the help area and get, like, within a couple seconds, an answer to your very specific question just by typing in that box. Okay, so that's it.